Welcome, and in this video we are going to create our first PHPStan custom rule. I'm pretty excited by this. I've even got my PHPStan t-shirt ready for this. Okay, before we get too much further into this, just make sure you've watched my introduction to the AST, the abstract syntax tree, because we'll need all that knowledge in order to create our first PHPStan custom rule. So the rule we're going to create is a rule that says we cannot use the print statement. And there's a number of steps that we're going to go through. And the first, we are just actually going to create a file called print.php. And it's just going to have the code in here that we want our PHPStan rule to tell us that we can't use. So I've just made a file and it's just got print hello in it. And what I'm going to do now is actually run PHPStan on this project and just make sure that we're not told that we can't use print. So we'll just run PHPStan. It's doing its stuff. Can't find any errors. So that is great. So the next step is where we're going to create all of these PHPStan rules. Well, we can put them anywhere. Generally, what I do is at the same level, I've got my source and my test folder. I create a build folder, and within that I've got a PHPStan directory, and within that rules, because maybe we're going to have other tools as well, maybe Rector or things like that. So, but you can put them wherever you like. So I have created a folder build PHPStan rules. Then we do need to tell Composer about this. So in the autoload dev section, I've just added in this bit here. To tell us where the PHPStan related extensions will go. And of course, because we've done this, we've updated our Composer JSON file. We should have to run a Composer dump just to make sure all of that is taken on board. And now we're going to create our first custom rule. And I'm going to call it do not use print rule. So we've got our build PHPStan, and then I will just create a new class. I shall call it don't use print rule. Now, all PHPStan rules have to implement the rule interface. So it's going to implement this one. And if we have a look at what is going on in there, we are required to provide, we're required to provide implementations of two methods. We've got this get node type and we have process node. So our rule has to provide the implementation for both of these methods. So the first one is the slightly easier one to provide an implementation of. And if you remember from the video about the AST, remember, all the code we write can be expressed in the abstract syntax tree, and the abstract syntax tree is made up of lots of nodes, and depending on the code that it's representing, there's different kinds of nodes, and each node has its own set of information. So, and what happens for PHPStan is it iterates through the entire abstract syntax tree, and it will say, I've got this node, I've got, for example, a class node. Are there any rules that are interested in class node? And some of the rules will say, yeah, I'm interested in that. And the way we know what node our rule is interested in is from the response. It says to get node type. So get node type will return the type of node that it is interested in. And then we have this. So that means if we say we're interested in class nodes, for example, we create a rule that and we say we're interested in class nodes, then only class nodes will get passed to the process node method. And that takes the node that we're currently working on and something called scope, which we will talk about in later videos. And finally, we return an array, and the arrays are of issues that we found. So if our rule doesn't find any problems at all, it will just return an empty array. And then for every issue it finds, it just puts this in the array. And at the end, PHPStan collects together all of the issues that are found and reports them. So if we come back to our rule, we will add our method stubs. And our first question is, what kind of node are we interested in? So if we remember, what we're trying to do is we're trying to report usages of print. So what we need to do is work out what node in the abstract syntax tree is used when we have the print command. So there's a couple of ways we can do this. What we can do is we can use one of these online AST visualizer tools. So let's take a look at that now. This is the AST viewer tool that is provided by Rector. And what we can do is we can put some code in here. So we'll just put, what was it, print hello. Oops. Print hello, or just doesn't actually matter what we print. Then we click parse, and it's showing us our code on the right, which we can interact with if we want to. And then we can see in this bottom, we can see the abstract syntax tree that is created from that. So what we can see in here is we've got an expression node, then we have a print underscore node, and then we have a string node. So what it looks like, in here, the overall line is an expression. The expression has a print statement, and the thing we're passing to the print statement is a string that has a value of hello. So for the rule we are trying to create, we're trying to tell us about instances of print. So it looks like from this there is a node called print underscore, and that is probably the node that we want to listen out for. So let's go back to our code and let's go back to our rule. So we're going to say, I'm going to say this particular rule is interested in the print node. So we're saying these are the type of nodes we're interested in. And if we've got this right, what that means is this rule will only be called when we come across a print statement in the a print node in the abstract syntax tree. So this method is saying what kind of nodes I'm interested in, and the process node is saying, are there any issues that we found? Now in this case, it's quite simple what we need to do here, because we just need to return an issue. We found an issue because if this rule is only going to be told about nodes that represent print, then every single time this is triggered, we know that we have a print statement. So what we're going to do is we're going to return an array, and we're going to use PHPStan's rule error builder. We're going to have a message that says something like, don't use print. We have to give each rule an identifier. So this is just, this is a way of identifying it. So I'm just going to call demo and then print. And then finally, we will build it. So this is using the, builder pattern, and these 3 lines of code are just creating us a new instance of a rule error. So now we've created this rule, the next thing we need to do is tell PHPStan about this rule. And we do that by providing the information in the phpstan.neon file. So here is the PHPStan with pretty standard setup. And then what we can do is we just add in this services section, and we have the rule I've just created. We give it the class name, and we need to tell PHPStan that this is actually a rule. So we give it the tag PHPStan rules.rule. Now let's run PHPStan again. And here we can see that it has reported a problem on line 3 of source print.php. We've got the message don't use print, and it is of type, I've called it demo.print. And if we go back to our code, we can indeed see that if we go to print.php, which is in source, on line 3 we have hello, and then if we were to do another print statement, another print statement, we could see, and we could just do something else as well. We could do var dump, just to prove that it's only picking up the print statement. So let's rerun PHPStan again. It's giving us 2 errors on lines 3 and 5, and we can see that those are the print statements on line 3 and 5, but it's not complaining about anything else. Great, we've just created our first PHPStan custom rule. Let's have a quick recap of the steps we went through. Well, the first thing we did is we just created a file with a little snippet of code of the issues, or what we were trying to get our PHPStan to detect. So in this case, it was a file that had a print statement in it. We then created a folder. I put mine under build PHPStan rules, and that's where I'm going to put all of my PHPStan rules for this video series. We had to then tell Composer in the autoload dev section about where we would find our PHPStan rules. We ran Composer dump just to get Composer updated for that change. And then we created our first rule, which was don't use print rule. And once that was done, we had to update the phpstan.neon file so that PHPStan knew about this rule that we've just created. And then we can run it, and forevermore we will get told off if we are using print statements. So I'll share the link to the repo in the video notes, and join me for future videos where we're going to look at slightly more complicated PHPStan rules, and we're also going to see how you can create tests for these rules. So yes, I hope to see you in a future video.